something. I want to talk to my parents and to someone that's close to me now, and see
there's quite a lot of that
primary school reports. I've had fun with those recently and reading all of those. That's fun. Yeah, it's always the same. It's until like the last written report is 5th grade, I think, but until 12th, teachers always said the same thing. Like, hey, you do so well when you're interested, but when you're not, you seem so far away. It's like, yeah, I know. And the last time a teacher said that, she was very worried that it was her teaching, and that was really cute because she was a really good teacher. And I had to tell her, no, I'm sorry, you're a really good teacher. The harder I try to concentrate, the further I float away.
I love that phrasing.
Yeah, that's just how it is. When I'm not interested, I can try and try and try, and it's just the mind is wandering.
I hadn't even made that connection, but yeah, I think that it's that kind of like I'm focusing and focusing and focusing and focusing and focusing, and what am I focusing on?
Was I supposed to listen to something? Maybe. I think I was, but what was it? Did someone ask something?
That's a little bit too familiar, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's it's just going to need to be renamed Makeritis. I think it's
yeah.
I've said it many times. I would love to see somebody do a study on kind of the percentage of people in the maker community with ADHD or being on the autistic spectrum versus
any kind of neurodivergence.
Any type of neurodivergence. Yes, not just those.
Yeah.
But, I think those are probably two of the more prominent ones. But compare that then to kind of average, normal,
in the end,
people. What is normal?
The non-maker community, yes.
Yeah, non-maker community.
It'd be interesting to be able to do that kind of study against, like, kind of the medical profession, and then the makers, and then kind of athletes, and those kind of pockets to, not specifically those, but
different groups. Cool. Just to put different groups next to each other.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose because a lot of us folks are quite nerdy and kind of probably were bullied by some of the athletes. It'd be nice to kind of get a comparison and go, okay, well, not many of you in neurodivergent, but we are, so kind of thing.
Yeah, I've been always. I don't think there ever will be like a class meeting of mine, because it's just. I don't think it will happen, but I was always kind of curious to see all the people and see where they are, or where they stayed and where I have gotten and they didn't. Something which obviously it doesn't sound very friendly, but also there were a lot of people who weren't very friendly to me. So that would be interesting just to see. But I don't think that will happen.
Yeah, I'm still in contact with a few people that I was in school with, but there's a lot of people I was in school with that I would not want to get in contact with. There's a few that I would like to. There are a few people that kind of I was friends with, but just drifted apart, and I've tried looking for them on things like Facebook, but they're not there. But the majority, no, I'm not interested in, to be honest.
Yeah,
some of them were absolutely horrible. And it's I just don't want to go there with that. There is that kind of morbid curiosity of sort of going well, just how useless is your life being?
Yeah, exactly. I was talking about that a few years back with my mom, because our 10-year meeting would have been in 2020, which obviously, if anyone had thought about that obviously didn't happen. But I was just thinking about that and talking to her, and she said that my train of thought was super, unfriendly and maybe even rude, that I was thinking to want to see that they were stuck where I had left them, basically, and I had made my way. But that's just, they all, not all of them, but a lot of them just made my life so hard that I even considered changing schools, and like almost at the end of my regular school time, because I went to school that only went until 10th grade, so until I was 16, like the basic schooling. And I considered at the end of 9th grade to change schools just for the last year, but then didn't, because the two options weren't better than the one I had. And I thought, for that year, that just, I can sit it out, kind of.
Yeah, just kind of grin and bear it and work through, yeah.
And knowing that I would start a school after that I had chosen, and that everyone who was there had chosen, because the school I went after that was basically my tailors and fashion design training, like the first one. 2 years full-time school apprenticeship, basically, plus school, like the
sort of the college aspect of it.
The degree you need to study.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of merit in that switch between kind of a schooling that everyone just has to go to, and then a school that people actively want to be at.
That's so different.
I found the same with shifting between kind of normal school and then going to college to study what I wanted to study.
Yeah.
The people that you were with there are like actively engaged and interested in the subjects and things like that, rather than just being generally disruptive, or it made a world of difference.
Yeah, and for the fashion school, you had to apply, you had to hand in work beforehand and then do a test, and so everyone was really invested in doing that. So even though we didn't all become good friends there, we all got along, and everyone was there for the same purpose, almost. Like there were almost a few who didn't take it as seriously, but I mean, they're everywhere, I think.
Yes, definitely. Very much so.
Yeah.
I think it's strange. There's a saying in Britain that some people use, that kind of school days were the best days. And it's just like, I think back and it's just like, no. I think there's an element of, when you're in school, you don't have to worry about the things that adults have to worry about, like paying bills and doing the washing perhaps, or fixing the car or whatever. There aren't those kind of the worrying things about being an adult.
Pressures of adulthood.
Pressures, yes.
Yeah.
But I hated. I loved learning stuff. Yeah, I really loved learning stuff. Mostly, there were a few subjects I wasn't so fussed on. But I just absorbed knowledge, particularly kind of 11, 12, 13 years old. I was just kind of sucking knowledge in on anything. But generally, socially, the majority of my school days were pretty horrible.
It's the same for me.
Same,
I literally still have the scars.
Yeah.
I'm not talking emotional ones.
Well, my niece can tell stories. Mostly because I'm very clumsy and stumble over things that no one else can see, but or not so much anymore. But when I was small, I just fell, and
Lots of random bruises appearing out of nowhere.
Yeah, and scars on my knees that can tell stories. But I also always loved climbing and like running around and playing in the woods and I grew up at the edge of a forest, and there was not a river but like a small river, and we played on the edge of that and in the river and in the woods and on the meadows, and that was really nice.
Oh,
so
that sounds like a really beautiful way to spend your youth.
Yeah, except that pretty near there's the Stuttgart airport, so we always had the airplanes coming in and out directly over our house and the autobahn next. But apart from that, when the wind was right, we didn't hear it. And it's still the case. Like when the wind is going in the right direction, the cars you can't hear anything.
Yeah, I can imagine there's like over here. It's the speed limits are, I'm not going to say sensible, probably similar to the limited areas on the autobahns, but I can imagine that there's still the occasional kind of extra loud, extra fast car that that we don't get over here.
Also, especially
you
like
get the point of tuning things out, but
especially in an area like Stuttgart where there's like the big car companies.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Mercedes and Porsche and so on.
I wouldn't want to live near to a sort of motorway. When we were looking at houses, when we moved down to Kent, the town where I had a job, and we looked at a variety of the areas in that town, and there were a few things we didn't like. Yeah, there were one part or several parts actually which were quieter. Everyone had access to your back garden. There was this strange thing where people could, to get access to their back garden, they walked across the back of your house rather than kind of a lane at the back, which we'd come from when we were in the previous town. But there was a couple of parts which didn't have that issue, but they were really close to the motorway. There's the M20 motorway, which leads from sort of Dover, Folkestone up to London. The M25 goes through the centre of the town. And all we could hear when we were kind of particularly in the gardens, more so than obviously inside the house, you could just hear this constant drone of the motorway. It's a busy motorway. There's a lot of traffic, going down to the ferry ports, going down to the Channel Tunnel, and it's just constant traffic, night and day. And it's like, in the winter, you're in the house, the windows are closed, not a problem. But in the summer, you want to sit out in the garden and have a barbecue, or you want to have your windows open in the summer at night. It's like just getting that constant drone. And we were moving from a city, which we were near a main road in the city. We were literally one kind of road over, and so there was sort of traffic noise all the time, but it was much lower level and not as constant. And it was just like, no, we're not moving. We'll have a look at the villages, and we ended up we live in a village, and it's really quite quiet most of the time. Sunday mornings, the motorbikers kind of create quite a lot of noise sometimes.
People who look like a lot like me, generally.
Hard to tell because they're generally wearing leather and helmets. But possibly, yes.
Yeah, it's weird with things like that you very quickly sort of tune a lot of that out. I used to have a train track, but for freight, probably 15 meters away from my bedroom window, and you'd get like a kind of 150, 200 meter long freight train would kind of come chuntering past your window, a few times a day, and you just sort of get used to that kind of thing of like, oh, I'll just turn the TV up a little bit more, or it just kind of becomes part of life, part of the background noise.
in my last flat here in Hamburg, I lived on the mainland Hamburg. I lived right behind the main station, so there were always those trains coming in and out, like the long distance trains, the regional trains, the freight trains, everything. And on the other side there was a big main road, so that was and also that like the parts of cities near main stations are always super interesting with junkies and all that. And then that's a part of town where there are like a lot of young people and like shared flats and a lot of parties and all of that. So that was an interesting 4 years. And then I moved here 1.5 years ago, and now I live alone. And there's still some noise because there's more foot people on foot at bars and restaurants,
course,
and
yeah.
all that. But it's super different. But I basically live in the middle of the harbor, so you have those sounds, and sometimes like you hear like very low frequency motors of the big
course, yeah.
freight ships.
Yeah.
And then the big the cruise ships that start here near or like get repaired and all of that. So yeah, but it's interesting in a lot of parts of the city because you have interesting like industry in different parts. There's always different smells. Like there was one area where there was a big brewery, so you had that. And in another part of town there's a yeast factory where they produce yeast, and then Nestle with chocolate and vanilla. So when that mixes, that's very interesting. And not too far away from here, there's a factory that makes artificial flavorings. So depending on what they produce, it smells interesting. So
Yeah,
that's always something that's like where you can see where you are in the city.
So anyone with kind of sensory issues, if you've visual impairment, you can follow your way around by your nose, or that kind of thing.
That's also interesting when you know someone who can't smell. Like, my friend Roxy, who you met, Jamie, their partner can't smell, and that's always super interesting. Like when you have candies that have different colors, like something yellow must be lemon, or something red must be berry, but because her sense of taste is obviously also not that good because she can't smell. There's always it can be funny.
Yeah, because my brother is anosmic as well, and his sense of taste is completely gone. So he has a similar kind of thing of if he goes and has a meal, he can only kind of rate the meal on the texture of the food, not the flavors, because there's just no chance of any flavor.
Oh no, yeah, I think Jo has some sense of taste, but not a lot. She doesn't know if she had some sense of smell at some point, and why it went away. But yeah, must have been when she was very little.
It's a very weird thing because mine kind of comes and goes. And I had some treatment recently that kind of fixes things temporarily. And I have like sort of a month or 6 weeks where I can really, really smell and taste everything. And then it kind of just dulls off over time. And it is like when I go through those treatment cycles, it's fantastic to then taste things that normal people taste. And then it just all goes back to kind of beige after a couple of months.
Oh, no.
Like strong flavors, really strong cheese or strong coffee or things like that. The kind of things that I gravitate towards because I know I can taste them.
I was going to ask about things like what about things like spicy food?
I really love hot curries and spicy chilies and things like that. For that kind of intensity of flavor. And then, you're picking something minute. Everything just kind of becomes this bland mush with a slight hints of things that are, strong. Yeah.
I would hate to lose, but I think if I had to lose a sense, I'd be far happier to lose smell or taste than hearing or sight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because my hearing, I know, is damaged. My hearing is I don't know if it's on borrowed time, but it's certainly damaged. But I think I'm going to have auditory processing issues, which possibly related to possible ADHD. But yeah, I like my food too much.
I just have to keep eating more of it until I get the right flavors come through. That's my excuse.
Yeah, I didn't say anything. I mean, yeah, you could be that you like the texture. Yeah.
Well, like I say, when I had the big kind of, I had this like quite intense. I think it's about 3 months worth of treatment to kind of kick it all off. And it's all like maintenance doses every sort of couple of times a year now. But it'd been really bad for a long time, and then I had this like 3 months of like full assault kind of treatment, and I just wanted to eat or at least taste everything after that point, because the like moments like I haven't tasted this. It came out like after all of my sensory issues. It was like I've eaten these, but I've never tasted them properly. So, yeah, everything was exciting for a few months.
And then trying everything again.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Oh, I haven't had one of these for years. Do I still dislike them? No. Oh, I can taste it properly now.
For me, it's always interesting when people can't taste when they have a cold because of the blocked nose, because I have like a chronic, I don't know the name, but
same, yeah.
It's always blocked, like mostly always. So I've learned to taste with a blocked nose, basically. And then when I had COVID in December, I wasn't sure whether I was losing my sense of smell and sense of taste or not, whether that was just what I was experiencing or imagining things, because that was just all so weird. And some people I know lost their sense of smell and taste, and some didn't, and I just didn't know. It was a bit weird.
It sounds like we've got that very similar kind of just beige mush kind of taste or profile.
I mean, it's fascinating how COVID is doing that. I had it it'll be about 5-6 weeks ago now, and people watching may have noticed that I've gone to drinking squash now rather than water. I've gone off the taste of water. And I know water's not supposed to have any sort of taste. People say it's tasteless, but
it does.
I don't like drinking water anymore. I like drinking squash, and I used to drink plenty of water, a few pints a day. But I might try weaning myself off the squash again, just to sort of try it. I had a bit of a trip out Friday night into yesterday, and I took a couple of bottles of water with me rather than squash. But I didn't drink that much of it, to be honest. But I should probably try again to see whether it's recovered or not, because I'm quite enjoying the squash, to be honest. But it's full of it's full of stuff that I probably shouldn't be drinking. Not the amount I do drink. It's like 2 or 3 pints a day.
Yeah, you'd be fine.
Yeah,
just
damage is already done.
Yeah, there's comedian John Richardson was talking about this. You've got to alternate the squash. So if you if you get purple, then your next one's got to be orange, and then back to purple. Because he's made that mistake before, where if he's really enjoyed, like a summer fruits, he's finished the bottle and then he's gone. I really enjoyed that, and bought a second bottle, and then regretted it and had to go and buy an orange one just to kind of infill. So got to mix and match, alternate them.
But that can be a thing with any kind of favorite thing. Like my eating habits are very repetitive, and I have always like one favorite spread for my bread, and then at some point I noticed that I didn't like it anymore, and that was like a bad moment. That was a really bad moment because it just had been my favorite for so long, and then it got a little bit worse, and I thought maybe they changed something in production, which might have been the case. But then at some point I just didn't like it at all, and then I had to find something new, and that's hard.
Have you since gone back and retried it after being on something else for a while?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can't just say spread. You've got to tell us what it did. What spread was it?
There are a lot of vegetarian like spreads, and that one was from Aldi's, and it was like a mustard agave, like mustard honey, but vegan. And it was really nice for a while, and then it changed. Maybe both the production and my taste. And I'll try it again sometime, but right now I have a few things that I can change it up enough. So
you can tolerate the same food for a while and then swap again.
Yeah. Also because I like the repetitive eating, but also I have a lot of food sensitivity, and like texture and stuff. Like there's some things that I can't eat because of the texture or because of the taste, and some that I can't eat because I can't digest them. So that's always a bit complicated.
Yeah.
Andy and I both share very similar.
Yeah, I've heard from a lot of people that they have one or the other problems.
It
and
is
that's always
for sure.
Stressful, like when eating out, and that's always something for like when going to events, like also like Maker Central or something else. When there's potentially some getting food in a group, and then going somewhere, and everyone has their own difficulties, and then I can't eat onions. That's always a problem when eating out, because everything has onions, and the slightest bit is a problem. And especially when I'm not at home, that's not too nice. It's just a layer of stress that doesn't need to happen. So
That was actually one of the things that was really, really lovely at Maker Central last year, because we had a load of sort of friends of ours who were all coming there that had various food problems, whether it was gluten intolerance or lactose intolerance or kind of other dietary requirements. And so many people brought various like snacks and things, and would quite often Andy being kind of wheat intolerant, brought some special Welsh cakes that he'd made for the other folks who are also wheat intolerant, and things like that. So there's a lot of that kind of like shared camaraderie, and when it comes to the food, especially with the makers, because we've all kind of found our own way of it's like, oh, there's this particular dish that I like, but it usually has this in it, and I can't have those. So I'll find a recipe that I like that works for that. And then, you must try these as well. And there's a lot of that kind of shared love for that kind of make a challenge, I suppose.
Yeah, and also a lot of understanding. If there's a lot of people who have various difficulties, well, that's
absolutely
always good to know that whatever it is, even if another person doesn't personally understand it, but they have an understanding, a basic understanding for whatever difficulties you come come with.
Absolutely, yeah. I think we're a very accommodating and understanding group on the whole.
Yeah, I think that's a valid thing to say. Yeah.
Discovering all of that has made me wonder why I didn't like try to make more contact with more people earlier. But I think it probably was also good because it was just the right time for me now. And earlier it wasn't.
That's exactly it. It's happened now, and you're stuck with us all now.
Yeah, it's good.
Whether you like it or not,
well, I do like it, but it's super rare for me to just feel comfortable in a group of people instantly, and that just happened there in Hanover. That was just
I was exactly the same. I think Rasmus shared the same thing. It being two foreigners there as well. Just the fact that we had obviously making as a shared hobby, but separated by language, but still entirely just welcomed and comfortable in the mix, and everyone's kind of it was that's super valid to just be super comfortable. That's good. We were saying before about that specifically, that kind of meeting of you and Ellen talking through the jacket that you'd made, and us kind of being quite baffled at the fact that it wasn't a bought jacket, and the stuff that you make, because you were saying before about being professionally trained in that kind of thing. The bags that you make are just super cool, really, really awesome bits of kit. I'm hoping to have a custom one at some point from you, because they are just very cool.
I'll be glad to make one for you. It's
awesome.
I always love working with people that I know, because that's always something special. Because you can like I said earlier, the friend who has the super special wishes, he has quite a lot of bags of mine now. I think the first I made for him was a birthday gift, and it was a special knitting bag for his, because he travels a lot by train, and at the time he was doing his PhD in Newcastle, so he always, when he came to Germany, he took the train, so there was a lot of train riding, and he knits a lot. So he wanted to have a bag where he could put all his knitting stuff in, and then have a place for the yarn to go through. He wanted to be able to put the bag on the train seat.
To knit straight from the bag.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's cool.
And then for the knitting needles and for like all around the bag, there's compartments for like small scissors and the tape and all the small things you need. And that he was talking about it a lot, and then I made this for his 30th birthday, and he was just over the moon for it. And since then he has ordered a few bags and has always 1,000 special wishes, and I have always to John, we can't put all of these features in this small bag. It's just not possible. I'll do a few for you. The holder for the knitting needles, and it's always
can't
fun.
fold space. It can only contain so many things.
I would if I could, but it's just not possible. We'll have to make the bag bigger, but I want it like this. That's always really fun. But I started, like, one of the first things I sewed on my own was a bag when I was 11 or 12 or something, and I used it for quite a long time. And I don't know if it still exists, but I need to look when I'm at my parents if it's still there, because that that's an artifact kind of. And
At
at
the
the
start of
beginning,
your journey.
yeah, and at the beginning of my training, like when I started the fashion school, the first fashion school, I was sewing a bag, and then someone said to me, I'm sure you will be making bags professionally in a few years. Now I want to learn how to make clothing now. So that was important, and then here I am, more than 10 years later, and I'm like, this person had a point. Yeah.
Well, makers love bags. That is
Yeah,
something we all.
I've loved bags forever, like clothing too. But even from when I was really little, bags were always a thing to put all my little treasures in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Bags are cool, but yeah, my wife couldn't believe how many rucksacks I had when we got married and got together. Just like she's like, I had more rucksacks than she had handbags and shoes put together.
Things are falling
I mean,
out.
she's not. I mean, she's not big into shoes and handbags particularly. But yeah, I just had loads, and and pouches, and
same.
bum bags as we call them in the UK, and all those kind of sort of just a variety of different. I've got far fewer now than I had then, because I don't do the outdoor stuff that I used to.
Yeah.
But I've still got quite a few. Making a bag would be a cool thing to do. It's something I'd like to do myself. Yeah, I've seen Adam Savage's EDC bags and Tom Sachs's bags. Yeah, and looking at how they're sort of made and think, I could make something like that. I'd like to do something like that. So there's features of them. You think that's a nice feature, but then there's other bits you think I don't like that feature quite so much. And using the interesting materials they use, like Dyneema, and it's kind of like, that could be cool. But it could be just another rabbit hole. And I've just fallen down another one. So that's just staying on the list of other rabbit holes to explore at some other time, I think.
I've just had to keep myself from falling into the leatherworking rabbit hole. I think it probably will come at some point. but until then, like I'll keep it where I'm at.
Well, I mean,
maybe,
if nothing else,
get some basic tools.
You're going to have to come and make a bracelet at Make with Makers booth at Maker Central.
Yeah, Alan had already said that there would be the option to make something with leather. I made a case for my engraving needle thing because I had hurt myself on it. Because it's just a massive piece of steel that's very pointy and heavy, and that just needed something secure. And I had this piece of leather that I don't even know where I bought it. I bought it because I wanted to make a case for a knife a few years back, and that's what was left over. And so I had the very, very, very basic tools for that, and I think for that it turned out pretty good. And then I started researching what I might need to add to the tool collection to be able to make it a little bit better the next time. And then I just had to keep myself from looking into that more because I needed to take care of my workshop. Because the bag making thing is actually a business, was more important.
But also, you could integrate leather parts to the bag and things like that. It's only a matter of time, Leo.
Theoretically, I could, but that's a bit of a thing because it's an official business, and I have like all the German things. Because I'm a tailor officially, I have to be part of the I don't know, the trade.
Like a registered profession kind of
trade
registration.
Trade registration, but also with it's Handwerkskammer it's called. Basically that keeps all the trades, like the tailors and the woodworkers and all of that. And they, when I applied for that, I had to. Someone called me and was asking, well, you make bags, but do you work with leather? Or no, I make bags out of fabric. And that was very important because of the leather working. You need another kind of, that's all very official, like the official.
It's like the guilds of old.
It's almost,
exactly. The guilds, and like I'm officially a one-person tailor shop.
So I'm guessing if you wanted to therefore incorporate leather, that would become quite maybe an obstacle to do. Do that.
It might.
Rather than just kind of going, I fancy doing leather now. I'll do some leather.
Yeah, if it would only be small things, then I didn't advertise it, and that probably wouldn't be a problem. But if I wanted to make something, like produce a series of things and sell them, that probably would be difficult. So I have to be a bit, I have to
careful.
See
good
what
old
I do.
German bureaucracy.
Exactly.
Bureaucracy. Brilliant.
I
can't words.
I don't know. Yeah.
Red tape.
But I mean, I would just like to be able to just make cases for my tools, and it doesn't need to be a part of my business. It can be just something that I do for me and for a gift. And
that's kind of what I've toyed with a little bit, because I dabble in a bit of leather work, and I tend to. It's the same thing. I do it for me, so I enjoy the process of it, but not as a thing for production as such. It's just that kind of. It's that little escape from everything else. Then.
Yeah.
A selfish fun.
Yeah. Also, I think for me it's interesting because the material behaves so differently to fabrics, which already have a very wide range of textures, from very slippery and loose to very rigid and but leather.
Yeah, of course. Something like a waxed, like a waxed canvas is probably going to behave a little bit more like leather would, or a little bit more like some leather would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, if you've got something like a super light nylon or something, it's not going to be. It's just going to kind of almost disintegrate, isn't it? If you look at it wrong.
Yeah. I remember in my first fashion school, like the last year, we always did fashion shows, like the school fashion show once a year, and I don't remember which grade organized it, but like the final show practically. And the dress I made had a silk, what was it? It wasn't a chiffon. It was something like a very translucent, very, very slippery, loose weave silk that was also a very narrow fabric width. So I had, I think, 4 meters for the skirt or something, because only one panel of the skirt pattern would fit on the width of the fabric. That was interesting. But yeah, I worked with a very large array of fabrics, because at work I have at my day job work thing, I have everything from very slippery silks to teddy fabrics that look like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at my business, I worked with a lot of technical textiles that were originally probably meant for not necessarily for bags. So that's like everything. That's really cool. And I have a whole paraglider to work with. That's really cool. I haven't
Oh
had
wow!
time yet.
I mean that's can be very slippy and
well,
very
I'm
strong,
used
very
to
thin.
Yeah, I'm used to that kind of fabric because I've bought that new.
Mhm.
And I've made a little drawstring pouch out of that fabric and sent it to Lucas because I made the socks for the Fraggle. But this paraglider, the place I had my workshop before now, that's a big workshop co-op, and it still exists, but we all had to move out. It's a whole different story. But my neighbor there someday came to me and asked me, "Hey, would you maybe like to have a paraglider? It has been lying around for 25 years because you're only allowed to use them for a certain amount of time, and then
Of course.
you can't use it anymore." And he was basically only holding on to it out of nostalgia. And then he asked me if I wanted to have it, and then when I took it apart, he wanted to have the strings, the lines, and some maybe a little bit of the fabric. And I think when I take it apart, eventually I'll make a little bag for him out of his old paraglider as a memory.
Yeah, that's a wonderful thought.
That'd be really cool.
That's cool.
Go on.
It's so much fabric and so much material, and then the backpack is packed in, and then there's the rescue parachute that's very silky. That's also interesting. And then the webbing of the harness.
The harness. Yep.
That's also, and the whole thing is pink and white, and the bag is pink, and the webbing of the harness is purple and black, and this wavy pattern, and that's the colors. It's just wonderful.
Is it nylon webbing or is it cotton?
Yeah, no, it's nylon.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And then like carabiners on there, I haven't completely looked through all of it because I need the space to roll it out.
Yeah, of course.
Probably a lot of sand and leaves and all of that in there. As someone told me who regularly works with old paragliders and has a whole business with bags out of them.
That sounds cool. I've kept. I used to do a lot of that. As people who listen, make us waffle know. Yeah, I used to do a lot of outdoor stuff. I don't now, but I've still got not all, but most of my old kind of GoreTex jackets, and some waterproof trousers as well. And yeah, they're kind of semi-functional, but not very waterproof now. Yes, a lot of delamination, but I've kept one of the reasons I've kept them is that kind of I've got this idea of maybe having a go at making some bags. Yeah, it's like I've got a North Face jacket which has got it's over 25 years old, but it was kind of ripstop outer. So if you kind of snag it, it doesn't snag very far.
Yeah,
it's just perfect for making a bag out of.
Yeah,
and it's just,
I work with old jackets too. I like doing that, and a few people have given me their jackets, and I've always been telling people like if you have a jacket with a broken zipper or that's just and you don't have the energy or don't want to repair it, give it to me. I'll make something out of it. And also tents. I have a lot of tents.
Of course,
cool.
An ex-girlfriend of mine, after a festival, just went around in all the discarded tents and picked up what was pretty. And then also at the old workshop place, someone came to me and was like, Baudet sponsored me a lot of B-grade tents for that course I was doing. I'm not using them now. Do you want them? Now I have like a lot of complete B-grade outer tents that I haven't touched yet. But will eventually. They're all green That's not my favorite color for bags. But
Great
the
for people
pants
doing
are-
outdoor stuff, I suppose.
Yeah, the pants are great as linings, as the linings of bags.
Of course, yeah.
But I've had
I didn't even think of that.
I've also had problems recently with fabric then disintegrating when I was sewing it. Like directly where the seam was, it was just ripping apart. That was bad. But I think it's okay. That can happen. It wasn't a new fabric that it already had its life, so it's not that bad when it breaks.
Yeah, that's one of the worries. One of the projects I want to do is integrating Tyvek and leather, but trying to stitch one to the other. I'm concerned that the leather will hold and then the Tyvek won't once it's stitched in, because it's like Tyvek's great when it's unbroken, but the second you break it, that's when it starts to fall apart.
Tyvek tends to be bonded to things, doesn't it, rather than sewn.
Yeah. So I've got to try and. It doesn't need to be super tough, but it's more just for the fun of it being Tyvek. But yeah, I'm just sort of. It's a challenge I've got to figure out at some point.
Yeah.
As we do.
I'm trying to think. There's somebody a few years ago made Tyvek bags.
Jacko's done it, and
was it Jacko? Was it? Yeah.
Alan had also had some Tyvek in the summer.
Yes, Alan's worked with Tyvek. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's becoming a little bit more common now. I wonder if Tom Sachs did. Can't remember, but
yeah,
it's a fun material.
Yeah. Also at school, I think that might have been the same fashion show I was talking about. One of the themes was origami, and they worked with a more papery Tyvek, and they had like really intricate folded dresses that were really crazy.
Well, that's the stuff that I've got. I've got a load of A4 sheets of two different thicknesses of Tyvek. For that kind of idea of trying to do something like a billfold wallet type thing, but with a kind of a leather and Tyvek sort of idea.
Yeah, why not?
Try it.
I've just started sewing a golden bag. That's the golden part is made out of Tinkerage, which is pineapple leather. And we have that at work, and I always can take cutoffs generally of everything, and so I took the golden cutoff and thought I need to get into making bags again, because after the moving of the workshop and all of that, I just needed something to start off, and I thought a shiny golden bag was the right thing to do that.
What's that like to work with? Because that's been on my radar for a while. I haven't got around to picking any samples up yet.
I'll bring you a piece of the golden one to make it central, and you can. It's interesting. Like sewing wise, it's like a really thick fabric. Like it's maybe like 2 or 3 millimeters thick. So that's it. It has some similarity to leather, but not really. And I can't really describe it.
From what I gather, it's a little bit more like chrome tan leather, a little bit more like the kind of leather you'd find on maybe furniture or clothing, rather than kind of the more tough leather I tend to work with. But because it's a couple of vegan friends of mine, I've wanted to make things for them, and there's no other really decent vegan leather. And there's so the Pinetex one's the pineapple based, and there's a mushroom based one as well, which is another kind of plant based version. Rather than just the usual PVC stuff that flakes and delaminates and.
Well, if you have the chance to use a natural product, that's always the better a better version. But yeah, I'll bring you a piece of the golden Tinkerage. Maybe I find a piece of uncoated one. I think at the end of the roll of the golden ones there was quite a lot without the golden. So you can see how this. It's really interesting because like it's more like a felt, maybe, like with all the fibers. So, but it's washable. It's interesting. Like my colleague made a phone case out of it, and they washed it, and like the golden thing got washed away, but the fabric itself was okay. It got a bit softer.
How weird! It's cool because I suppose Andy and the listeners who've not encountered that as a thing, it's a completely natural plant-based alternative to leather that's pineapple based, and it is kind of like interwoven fibers in the same way that leather would be, but all with pineapple fibers, and it's really, really cool technology to have kind of used pineapple scraps to basically make a fabric that's tough and hard wearing and flexible, and they're making clothes and shoes and all sorts of things out of it and stuff. So yeah, it's very cool material.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Yeah, I sometimes wish I'd done can't word. Had studied. I wish I'd studied material science sometimes, because I ended up going into the kind of sort of materials industry before I was a teacher, so I kind of like materials and how they behave. For me, it's a sort of more fascinating kind of area. I guess it links to engineering, but as I've said before, I'm a bit of a closet engineer. But just seeing how different materials can behave and how they can be used is, I think, always a very interesting thing. And having spent a lot of time in the outdoors and the materials that are available for outdoor kits, and certainly how that sort of changed from sort of when I started doing outdoor stuff in the very early 1980s through to kind of the stuff that was available in the 2000s. Just a variety of material, how much it all improved. And when you go to kind of outdoor shops now and just sort of see some of the things that are available, it's just phenomenal.
There's also so much of the ultralight.
Yes, something
with the Dyneema and all of that.
Dyneema and Spectra and some of these other ones. It's
because Leo, you do quite a bit of cycling, if I'm correct.
That's kind of where I really got into the making bags because I got into the cycling community.
I'm looking at lightweight cyclists. So I think
it's weatherproof.
Trying to get lightweight than kind of maybe even sort of walkers. I mean, there are now kind of the ultra lightweight backpacking community. Go off with kind of a full set of backpacking kit, but it weighs less than 6 kilos. And you kind of go, okay, right. Well, I used to go backpacking. It was I'd be lucky if I had kind of 30 kilos. And cyclists, I mean, the way cyclists pursue lightweight is like nothing else.
But there's very different ways. Like there's the road cyclists that want to be just all aerodynamic, and the bikes have to be very light. Like you can always hear the carbon bikes coming because they sound so super different, and then they've got their shaved legs and all that. That's that. And then there's the bikepacking community, and I've been over the last few years I've been also watching a lot of videos of people who did like the long distance hiking trails, like the PCT and the AT and the CDT, and there's a lot of the ultra light backpacking thing. And then I kind of wanted to maybe someday do at least a part of the PCT. But then thinking about the equipment, I had already a lot of knowledge about packing light because of the bike packing.
Yep.
And that was like getting knowledge from the one community and from the other, and putting those two together. And a lot of the bike people that I belong to two different groups here in Hamburg. The one is called Non-Stop Schwitzen. That is a bike punk group with a lot of freak bike stuff, like where I welded the first time and like built a tall bike with my old kid bike and did all of that. And the other one is a chaos group who all were scouts, and they can't pack light. For like really, they have to really
pack for every eventuality,
because they are so used to carrying their whole body weight on their back that they can't pack light for their life. That's so fun. And like the last bikepacking trip I did was in 2020 with my then partner, who also is one of those, and it was really interesting to get him to a point that he could carry all of his stuff on his bike. Just you can't take this backpack. No, you can't take like your sheepskin thingy, and don't take the wooden balls, please. Don't take the wooden balls. That's just also heavy. That was it was an experience. And then he destroyed my water bladder because he was stupid.
I used to fall into the kind of take every possible thing you might need, sort of group.
Ceramic plates, kitchen sink.
Yeah,
pretty
much. Bathtub.
Especially for the cooking, I don't want to go that minimal, but I've perfected it that I can fit a really elaborate cook set into like a 1 liter pot.
Nice.
Including spices.
Oh, nice.
So that was like last year. I went to a festival with a few friends, and then I had a full cook set. The others didn't.
So you can. Cook
I didn't have anything
food.
to cook with it. I didn't have anything to cook with it, but I could have. Yeah, that was another planning problem of mine, but that was also due to the group of people that were also the scouts who weren't. It didn't provide enough information for me. They were all like, we've been doing this for years. You probably know already, and I didn't, because I haven't been part of this group for years.
Yeah. I do miss backpacking in some respects. I mean, I'd love to be able to stick a rucksack on with that amount of kit nowadays, but yeah, that wouldn't be happening. And I also quite like the luxury of a bed nowadays.
Yeah.
I have slept. I think. Oh crikey, would it have been? I'm just getting a few years now. Not in 2016 was the last time I slept on the ground. Anyway, which is a year before I had to give up teaching because my back had gone. But yeah, that was a trip I'd organised. It was a school trip. It was kids were supervised by the staff on the centre we were at. So the school staff didn't have to actually do that much. I had a team of really good people. I was in charge, and I basically said, right, because we were there for 2 nights, and I basically said, I'm going to be sleeping at the edge of a field about 200 meters that way, outside of the camp. So I'm not going to put up with any snoring or anything like that. And it was just fabulous. I just literally had, but there was a guy walking his dog at 5:30 in the morning, kind of about 5-10 meters past where I was sleeping. It was just like, and I sort of sat up. He was just like, what? And just carried on walking as if he did. Yeah, I see that every day.
Just random dude asleep in a field.
But then I got to see a deer prancing through the wheat field. Yeah, at 4:30 in the morning when it was light. It was light. It was sunrise. It was prancing through. Yeah, I sat up, and it was like, "Hey, what's that? That's." Because it probably only saw my head. It probably only saw my head. It was just like, there's a head there. Scampered on.
What is that? That doesn't belong.
Don't recognize that animal.
I've never seen that here. That's new.
Yeah, I think going up. I tended with my kit when I was buying stuff. I tended to go for things that would be very durable, which of course is generally, if it's durable, it's not lightweight.
Yeah, not necessarily.
It's a bit like that triangle of kind of, if you want to make, you can make something good.
Yeah, good, cheap, and quick.
Well, you can't. You can only have 2 out of the 3.
Yeah.
I think for Kia, it's very sort of similar. You can have something that's cheap, durable, and light, but again, you can only have 2 out.
2 of those 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also like things with lots. I used to like things with lots of zips, and my wife always used to joke. But whenever I buy a jacket, whenever I buy these sort of waterproof jackets, like, how many pockets has it got? It's like, well, there's this one, and there's this one inside, and there's this bottom one here, and then there's this other one on this side.
I can't remember what it was called, but there's a whole company whose methodology is they sell jackets, and their entire methodology is by the number of pockets and features that these jackets have. And we're talking in like not your usual like, oh, it's got an inside pocket, it's got 2 chest pockets, it's got 2 waist pockets. These have got like, there's a separate pocket for your iPad and a separate pocket for your phone and a separate pocket with cable trace through to where your phone pocket is for putting a power bank, and then you've got like a temperature stable pocket down at the front for sandwiches, and then a water bladder pocket in the back, and then these are like kind of 30 or 40 pocket jackets. Absolutely ridiculous, and about £600 each. Insane the number of features that you can pack into just a thing that you wear. But it is basically like a full-on rucksack, but that is just a jacket. It's crazy things. I'll try and find out what they're called, but yeah.
And then if you get too warm and have to take it off, then it's a problem.
You're just carrying this thing with you.
Then it needs to be able to pack into itself and then become
the rucksack. Yeah. It's like a life motto, just become the rucksack.
Yeah. And there's a reason why I mostly wear work pants, because they have a lot of pockets, or like the right amount of pockets. But you can always that's just too many.
Yeah, I may have had issues in the past with kind of particularly with sort of outerwear jackets. And it's like, I think we weighed one of my jackets once, and it was because I kind of at one point handed it to my wife, I think, and I've had the same with other people who've kind of gone, how much stuff have you got in here? And it was 7 kilos.
Oh no.
I've got my everyday carry stuff in here, and there's a pad and pens, and there might be a knife, and a variety of stuff, and there's a water bottle, and there's glasses, or sunglasses, and
that sounds more like an every
wallet
week carry rather than an everyday carry.
Imagine what you would do if you had the jacket that was all pockets.
Oh, crocky. Well, it would certainly explain my bad back. Yeah.
Well, the shelf behind him would look a lot cleaner, or a lot more empty. I've got 15 books in here.
I just noticed you can't see any of my many books. They're all next to me and there. Can't see them.
It sounds like an opportunity to start thinking about things that are grabbing our attention. To sort of talking about books.
That's a good shout.
Been listening to Fools of Tools and practicing my segues. You have to point them out, obviously.
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
So attention grabs obviously is. I mean, you're familiar with the show. You know what we kind of it's anything that's been grabbing your attention or is about to grab your attention, whether it's projects, videos, books, whatever. So what's your attention grabbers at the moment?
Yeah, one is I've been listening to a book this week. I've not completely finished it, but I've so far liked it very much. It's called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Devin, and that's it starts somewhere in the mid-90s, and it's a book about friendship and working together and how friendships change over time, but also very much about gaming and producing games, and that's really interesting.
Nice.
Like I don't know yet how it ends, but I really liked it. And then I have another thing. There's a friend of mine. She's called Melissa. And she's got a small sticker business. She's a queer feminist artist, and she does stickers and pins and all of that. Her handle is Waffle might be, which we have to write down because that's this regional dialect word. But I think more than an artist, she's actually a community organizer, and she, for example, did a so-called Artvent calendar last year before the Christmas time with a lot of queer artists, and they put together like this booklet, and there were on each page for the 24 days of Advent there was like a little artwork. And then today she organized a thing that was called Crafternoon, and it was basically a craft meeting. And I wasn't there because my brain said no, but I hope it will take place another time. And it's basically just a meeting to sit down and do crafts together and to do maybe really things lovely. You're not that motivated to do alone, because sometimes it's just easier to start a project or to continue a project when there are other people too that also work on their things. And I think that's really important to point out, because she's also just really young now. I think she's 22 or something. She's really young, and she does all that work, and that just needed to and I think she wanted to come to Hanover too in the summer.
Oh, nice.
Maybe, yeah. I think I've motivated a few people to come too.
Cool.
I think I'll hopefully be back as well.
Yeah,
that was so much fun.
I'm bringing the queer non-male people. And
good plan. There definitely needs to be much more representation.
Yeah.
There's far too many people that look like me and Andy.
Maker Faire Hanover does look. All the Maker Fairs. I kind of wish. We did have a Maker Faire for a while in the UK, up in Newcastle, which is it's right at the far end of England. Yeah,
I've been to Newcastle.
It's a long way up. Yeah, particularly given the state of our roads. But just seeing the kind of the amazing things at the Maker Fairs. Hanover, particularly with some of the kind of sort of vehicles. And some of the kind of just some of the amazing things. You something to see on Make YouTube channel where they kind of visit, like Maker Faire Rome and Maker Faire Hanover and whatever, and they kind of sort of chat to people. It's just like it's just mind blowing, kind of watching and listening to people. It just got so deep into particular little rabbit holes, and you just think. How? There are many things that are rabbit holes, which whether it's sewing or or whatever, and you kind of think, I can see how people get it. Yeah, I can see how people get into that. But then you think, somebody kind of gets into, making I can't even think of a great example right now, but yeah, it's something that's just so unique, and you think, how
There's
did you
loads and
discover
loads of that
this?
like
Yeah.
super niche, super
Yeah.
specific things where you just think, yeah, exactly that kind of like, I'd never have made that connection to do that with
Yeah.
one of those. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I
it
mean-
works.
Roxy crochets cephalopods, which is a very niche thing, and they do it so accurately. And like every kind of like the very small nautilus, and then the cuttlefish, and the squid, and the octopus, and it's like they're super accurate. I got a cuttlefish, not a cuttlefish, a cuttlefish. Let's see, I got one for my birthday. And then shortly after that, I bought myself a squid, and now I have a cuttlefish and a squid.
Amazing.
The squid is also very accurate. It has everything a squid needs, including a beak. It's soft, but it's a beak.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. It's really nice.
Roxy is another awesome human we need to get on the podcast
Yeah.
as well.
And Roxy had so much. When I asked them to come with me to Hanover, they had so much imposter syndrome thing because they didn't see themselves as a maker really, but they constantly make stuff with their hands. They constantly. Why not? That's yeah.
That was just a testament to how like utterly welcoming the community was.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that, I mean, there was a group of us just sat by that kind of whatever it was, the water bit.
Yeah.
Just chatting for ages.
That fountain thing where people sunk a boat.
Yeah. They had this like big, massive flotilla thing that was probably 3 meters in diameter or something like that. And then they managed to sink it. It's just like a little kind of patch of water, you know, as a like a fountainy kind of thing, but it was just within the grounds. It was probably, I mean, I don't know, 600 mil deep or something, maybe a meter.
Yeah.
But this whole flotilla just went to the bottom, and then you had this group of people trying to lift this thing out that had just completely filled with water.
Yeah, that's gotten super heavy, and they just needed to get their floating things off to get the water out. That was fun to watch. But yeah, each of us just so super different things, and we all just talked about how we cope with people. Basically.
We've joked before that like that same kind of thing happens at Maker Central as well, with people who are feeling socially awkward or imposter syndrome or X, Y, or Z other, you know, kind of thing. And then they all kind of group together on their own, you know, so they all kind of like, oh, I'm going to go and stand and get away from people and just be in my own space for a moment, and then realize that they're stood next to 4 other people doing exactly the same thing, and then just start chatting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing about kind of sometimes PC people say, you know, when you get introverts together who have common interests,
yeah,
then they will actually behave in quite extrovert manner.
Yeah,
it's how you. I quite like the kind of the sort of definitions of introversion and extroversion that actually look at kind of the energy that you get and the reasoning for that energy.
How and where
you take the pressure off someone.
Yeah, it can be simplified to kind of extroverts get energy from people and introverts get energy not from people. But actually, I think it's finding, if you find the right people, then it just is. You know, you go to somewhere like Maker Central, and you just come back kind of almost buzzing from having found your community and the inspiration for ideas, which you might not have experienced if you kind of just as an introvert. If you went somewhere else, perhaps, it's not something you necessarily feed on. I think it's something for another PhD study. If only there's some psychology PhDs listening to this program, they could actually kind of get some really good ideas for some case studies.
Yeah, definitely.
Jamie, what about you? What's been grabbing your attention this week?
Lots of really random bits, really. I managed to pretty much finish my leatherworking bench now, ready for use before, and then to make a central. One or two little tweaks I need to do, and then I do all the fireproofing for it, flame proofing. But I've got a
which, just to clarify for anyone listening and kind of worrying about kind of what the flame proofing leatherwork.
For insurance reasons, because we're for the NEC to allow us to bring a bespoke bit of equipment in that isn't on their approved list of stuff that they've bought. We have to make sure that, as it is a flammable material, we have to make it not flammable. So yeah, I have to spray some stuff on a wooden bench to make them allow me to bring it in.
Yeah, not developing some new form of leatherworking that involves a forge and hammer and anvil type affair.
Not yet. Yeah, not this time. But no, that, and then I've got a bit of a 3D printed swirly thing. So I'm going to an event next weekend. So I'm making a cane to take with me, like a walking stick thing. Just like a weird, funky, twisty top. It's all in like a black and green theme. So I've been to go with my outfit. I've been getting that sorted as well. So lots of little bits and bobs for me. Yeah. How about you, Andy? What's been grabbing your attention?
This week, the thing that's been grabbing my attention has been the lathe.
Yes, it has.
With the help of our good friend Dan Tarrant, who's a previous guest. I have taken delivery of a lathe and some tools and a sharpening system. So I spent an afternoon earlier in the week ripping out one of the benches in the Tinkerage, which was challenging because I put it in 10 years ago and I couldn't remember quite how it had gone in. And I built other stuff, kind of wall storage systems in place above it. So it was kind of like, that was a challenge. I thought I was going to have to dismantle the entire wall storage system to get the benches out. Partially because I couldn't see, because I'd used quite long but thin screws to screw through the kind of frame into the worktop. But because they were quite thin screws with quite a thin head, and they'd gone in quite deep, they were kind of sort of disguised, kind of against the quite rough timber. So once I'd worked out that actually I had screwed it in from underneath, that kind of made it a bit easier. But everything was all wedged in because other stuff had been built to the side and above it, and it just like at one point, to pull one of the bits of worktop out, I literally put 2 clamps on it to use as handles in order to be able to grab it.
Nice.
And I spent most of today rebuilding the bench at a slightly different height and shorter. So shorter in height, but shorter in length as well. So that the lathe, which isn't quite ready yet to use, will be at the right height. So next step is actually take the lathe back off the bench to redo the box work on the wiring behind it, because I forgot to do that before putting it on. Then take the original base that was on the lathe off. There's a bit of cleaning needed to be doing because it got a bit wet when I was taking it off the pallet, the delivery pallet. So a little bit of surface rust, so I need to do a bit of cleaning up on it. And then there's no dry days for the next week, according to the forecasts, and I can't actually get to it without taking a pile of stuff out. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'll just have to see what the weather does. If it changes.
Sat itching to get out there.
Yeah, pretty much. But I've got a couple of busy days ahead of me with other things. So probably wouldn't be able to get out there till Wednesday, the earliest anyway. So we'll have to see. I've got my old table saw trolley needs to be dismantled and then rebuilt narrower to fit through the gap that I've generated. But that'll be all fun and games. But again, can't do that till I can get everything out, and I can't get everything out if it's pouring with rain. Well, I can, but then everything's wet, which obviously is not helpful.
But if you take the things out that you might want to get rid of, then it doesn't matter, does it?
Leo, where can people find you? If just changing the topic quickly, where can people best find you if they want to find some of the things you've been doing?
I think Leo is currently muted.
Leo is currently muted. Yes.
I think they might have some technical microphone issues. However, Leo can be found on Instagram at Grundfunkel and Funkelgrund, both for personal stuff and for all the maker stuff, which is very, very awesome to check out. The nods of approval seem to be good. Leo, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure and a delight.
Yeah, it's been great to meet you, and hopefully look forward to catching up with you at some point.
And we will very much look forward to seeing you at Maker Central as well. Very awesome.
Right,
nods and smiles.
Yeah, so for people listening, go find the YouTube video. You can see kind of Leo waving goodbye when we say goodbye in a few seconds. So yeah, we'll hopefully see you next week, folks. And
Indeed.
Yeah. Bye for now. Have a good week.
Bye.